Welcome to First Bite, our Detroit Lions preview podcast. Coming at you for Week 3, Lions versus Baltimore Ravens. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the editor-in-chief at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. With me, as always, as my co-host for First Bite, Ryan Matthews, senior editor of Pride of Detroit, at Ryan_POD. Ryan, how we doing tonight?
Oh, I'm feeling good. This is going to be a good episode.
This is going to be a very good episode because we've got a very special guest, a good friend of the show, friend of the podcast, friend of the Twitch channel, and also the managing editor of Baltimore Beatdown. And I get to say this for the first time, writer for BaltimoreRavens.com. Kyle Barber is with us, at Kyle P. Barber on Twitter. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. I'm happy to finally be able to hang out on your Twitch stream where you got viewers and it's gonna be a fun time.
Listen, you guys were bumping last night on Sunday night after that big win over the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was far more entertaining than the typical stream, but yeah, it was a blast, and I'm just happy to be hanging with you two average Joes over here. I'm schlubbing it up.
Well,
I don't feel slighted.
Yeah, I mean, we're not official writers for the team site or anything, so you know. But let's get into the Baltimore Ravens a little bit. They're 1-1. Lions are 0-2. They're coming off a big win over the Chiefs, like I said. But to me, like, I'm looking at this team, and the first thing I noticed when I was doing my preview here is the injuries. My God, the injuries are just everywhere. 14 guys on IR. There's a handful more that are on the injury report this week. Where are the Ravens hurting the most right now with all those injuries? And tell us maybe a little bit about the guys that are replacing some of these other ones.
Just everywhere, you know. It's not pretty just about at any position other than quarterback, thankfully. But really, the most injury-stricken part of the roster is running back. They lost J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill, all within, I believe, a 12-day span, which is just punishing. And they were all to season-ending injuries. It wasn't like one of them is dealing with like a high ankle sprain, and then another guy's like nicked up, and a third one got it. It was 2 ACL tears and an Achilles tear. So all three of those guys are out, and now they brought in Tyson Williams. They have Devonta Freeman, Latavius Murray, and Le'Veon Bell. They are just a backfield of veterans back there, and Tyson Williams is the one leading the charge a little bit, but other areas that are affected have been tackle. Ronnie Stanley, after playing in Week 1, was kind of shut down, it feels like. Alejandro Villanueva, who was playing right tackle in Week 1, has moved to the left tackle position. Played pretty well, too. We can talk about that a little later if you'd like. But Ronnie Stanley isn't back out there, and he was a premier left tackle in the NFL, just about every single season that he's been playing. Up until he suffered a season-ending ankle injury last November. Other areas include cornerback Chris Westry tore, I believe, something in his knee, and as well as that, Marcus Peters, all-pro cornerback for the Ravens, suffered a season-ending ACL tear. That was one play either before or after Gus Edwards tore his ACL in practice. The Ravens went back-to-back season-ending injuries in practice and then shut it all down. Deshaun Elliott's coming off of a concussion in Sunday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's truly like getting out of Kansas City with just a concussion to a player is looked at as a victory, which is a really grim way of looking at how the injury bug has really impacted the Ravens just 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah, and let's stay on that offensive line for a second, Kyle, because to escape Kansas City with a victory the way that the Ravens did, shorthanded the way that they did, is there a possibility that Ronnie Stanley shows up this week? Is there a possibility that would have a huge impact, but like the shuffling that the Ravens have done along their offensive line, does it seem like it's going to have lasting impacts on this game and forward, or what?
As for right now, I'm not expecting Ronnie Stanley to be returning to practice. He didn't practice today. He was a part of the did not participate in practice list that the Ravens released for the injury report. I didn't see him out there when I was attending practice for media access, for my media access. I think that what they've done to reshuffle the offensive line is going to be more of a long-term thing. And in a strange way, it worked against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, Alejandro Villanueva had a really struggling matchup against Max Crosby and the Las Vegas Raiders. He allowed, I believe, the third most pressures in the NFL. He had graded as the worst offensive lineman, I believe, for PFF after week 1. It was really bad, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And for
Eastern
him to come
Michigan, stand
back,
up.
yeah, and for him to come back and and play on the left side and instantly just look like he's back to his traditional self. And Patrick McCary, who is an undersized guard center combo player, typically was playing right tackle, and you saw Lamar Jackson, I don't believe, had a pressure. I don't think the Chiefs defense created a single pressure in week 2. You know, the Ravens offensive line stood out. You know, they showed that, hey, Ronnie Stanley's gone, but that doesn't mean that we're all folding on this situation. And the interior line, which was expected to be the weak point of this Ravens this offensive line so far, looks like the strong point. It's been I think that's going to be a more lasting impact than anything, is seeing these guys step up and you know, that traditional next man up call that we all hear. You know, they're responding to it well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it was a whole different story in week 1 and week 2, and you know, this early in the season, everyone's trying to pick apart, you know, what's the real Ravens offensive line, and you know, obviously you also have to factor in the opponent right there. Like the Raiders D line, as you mentioned, Max Crosby has been an absolute beast this year, whereas you know the Chiefs, their pass rush, who knows what it's going to be like. It's certainly not like the identity, but I think that could be a place where the Lions might be able to exploit them. You know, the Lions don't necessarily have a huge pass rushing threat themselves. But yeah, I think I'm going to definitely have an eye on that offensive line. You mentioned the running back stuff, and I want to get into this, and I almost jumped in right away because one thing that I love about the Baltimore Ravens is they prove one of my favorite things that I like to say, which is running backs don't matter. Because I mean, like you said, that they're already essentially on their 4th, 5th, 6th. They're picking up guys whose prime was 10 years ago, and they're still an amazing running attack. They, you know, averaging 220 yards a game so far this year. They were number 1 rushing team last year. Tell us a little bit more about Tyson Williams, what he brings. It looks like he's their number 1 back, an undrafted guy, right? So a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. You throw him in this amazing Ravens offensive system, and it works.
Yeah, so Tyson Williams came out of nowhere for the unique opportunity that he tore his ACL in college at BYU, and so he kind of got shut down, and the Ravens signed him to a futures contract. So uh, he was unknown because he didn't play his senior year over at BYU and instead just kind of prepared to play in the NFL and get a shot at training camp. I actually had Tyson Williams as the number 3 running back coming out of training camp. I thought that Justice Hill was on the chopping block, just because Tyson Williams looked better. Before Justice Hill suffered his Achilles injury, he was dealing with a nagging ankle injury too. So I thought the Ravens would be interested in you know, just doing an injury settlement and keeping Tyson Williams as their third back instead of Hill. But overall, he's got this unique blend and mix of downhill running, but he does have this one. He's like a jump cut back where, you know, he's capable of the one cut and go. He has some agility, but it's not his prime ability. You know, he's not Darren Sproles. He's not zigging and zagging around the field and making a bunch of guys miss. But he's not physical and just this hammer of a running back like Gus Edwards would have been, or Latavius Murray is for the Ravens right now. Instead, he's a little bit of a one jump cutback and makes some plays and makes guys miss, and you know, he'll be physical at the point of attack, but he's not pursuing the physicality like we see these bigger running backs in the NFL do. Derrick Henry, I mean, that guy will run over everybody, and Gus Edwards would have been that physical kind of player, and that's where Latavius Murray comes in as the number 2 running back there. You know, he's been the hammer to the speed of Latavius Murray. It feels like a little bit like the Ravens downgraded from J.K. Dobbins to Tyson Williams and from Gus Edwards to Latavius Murray, where neither of those players have the burst that we saw from their counterparts, their injured counterparts coming into the season. You know, J.K. Dobbins looked like a man possessed when he was on the field. He was flying around all training camp, And I'm not a fantasy football guy, but when I was getting texts from all the friends and everything, they're like, "Should I draft J.K. Dobbins?" I was like, "This guy looks like he's gonna tear up the gridiron. Like he looks like a weapon right now." And the same with Gus Edwards. When people were like, "Does Gus Edwards have that ability?" With J.K. out, I was like, "This guy's a threat for 100 yards a game." Like I know these, I've watched these guys, and I'm not saying it out of bias. I'm saying it because the Ravens' rushing attack for the last 3 years has been the best in the NFL, including the best NFL season of all time. They broke the Patriots, I believe, 81 record where they rushed for the most yards in a single season as a team. They've been utterly dominant. I agree with you on the point of the running backs don't matter, but I think there is a little bit of a caveat that you're utilizing the Ravens as your team.
Sure.
They just have the best running quarterback in NFL history. There's just that caveat there.
Sure.
But other than
Just a
that,
small
everything's
one.
great. If Jared Goff is quarterbacking this team, I'm
Okay.
just picking a quarterback out of thin air here,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
grabbing a random
Sure.
one.
The guy who rushed for
I don't think
44 yards last game, by the way.
Lamar did like 107, man. There's a big difference
That's about the
in the
same.
thread. Yeah, exactly. 44, 107. What's the difference
It's just
here?
the rushing attempts. If he had ran as many times as Lamar Jackson, I'm sure he would have had 170.
You're right, man. You're right.
We
I think
make
there's a difference here.
Yeah, we made that joke on the podcast where Jared Goff kind of looks like when he's at full speed, he looks like the guy who's running back to his car to get his wallet because he doesn't have it for his purchase at the farmer's market. Lamar Jackson has the ability to change direction right and left like 4 times in the matter of 7 yards. It's insane.
It's special, yeah.
Yeah, it's real different, man. He's different. But the Lions so far up to this point, they've really struggled stopping the run. There was a little bit of improvement last week where they were able to kind of stymie the Packers' run attack, and the Packers were more interested in throwing the ball anyways. But when it comes to stopping the Ravens offense, Kyle, in the first game they put up 27 points against the Raiders, and then they put up 36 on the Chiefs. That's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, they can score points in bunches, and they can typically do it on the ground. Is there anything to the idea of making Lamar a thrower and that having success? I mean, there was so much made leading up to this game with the Lions about playing 2 deep safeties on Aaron Rodgers, and that might be the recipe to kind of stymie him. Is there a similar mode of defense when it comes to containing the Ravens offense?
Not necessarily, I'll say. I mean, of course, you can throw different looks at Lamar to silence him or slow him down in terms of if you have a bunch of speed at the linebacker and utilizing a dime backer role as well, the 3 safety looks that you have somebody down in the box and able to cover. Those can definitely be impactful. I'm not gonna say that, but this feels like I'm almost shying into like I'm walking backward into the is Lamar Jackson been figured out conversation,
Yeah.
which utterly drives me insane.
Because the answer is yes, right?
Because the answer is all right. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a fun time. No, Lamar Jackson can't be figured out. You watched as he there's things that there's I figured out Lamar Jackson run a 4-2. Run a 4-2 and then still be able to tackle him. You know what? How I figured out stopping Lamar Jackson? I'm going to try and hit him with my car. And that's all there is to it. And and he has a better probability of juking me while I'm driving my car at him than anything. That's just it. There's figuring out a game plan for somebody, and then there's figuring out what they're going to invent on the football field.
Right.
And that's what the Raiders were dealing with when they were in a 14-0 hole was Max Crosby blew around the edge, almost had his hands on him. 3 Raiders were surrounding him, and Lamar danced in the backfield for 7.8 seconds and then threw a dime to Marquise Hollywood Brown in the end zone. And you're going, well, we did everything. We truly did everything we could but get him, and that's just the result of the play. That's what Lamar Jackson can invent and operate on the football field. Yes, there are ways of slowing him down. If you have a bunch of speed on the edge, I think you can contain him if he's not going to hand it off up the middle. But that threat still lingers with the strength of the Ravens' offensive line, specifically their interior with Kevin Zeitler and Bradley Bozeman and Ben Powers or Ben Cleveland, whichever of the Bens they're interested in running that day. So they have opportunities to make players other than Lamar Jackson make plays. He has Sammy Watkins, Mark Andrews, and Marquise Hollywood Brown now. Like they have legitimate threats that aren't just throw it to Mark Andrews and throw it to Hollywood and like hope that you can do the best. Like Sammy Watkins has looked really good, and though you can't rely necessarily on his health because he's struggled through that through the last few seasons, he looks healthy enough to continue making plays, and he's been practicing well, and he's been really working on himself to this degree where I believe, that it's sustainable.
I mean, a lot of interesting stuff there. Obviously, when you said the word speedy linebacker, I think everyone's eyebrows kind of rose because it certainly seems like Derek Barnes, the Lions rookie fourth round pick, is going to get a lot of playing time, especially with the recent news that Jamie Collins is on the trading block. But obviously, putting Derek Barnes on Lamar Jackson in his first career potential start, kind of a handful for a guy, and really kind of putting him in a position to maybe lose. But definitely something to interesting look on. And I think the other thing you mentioned, Mark Andrews, kind of off to a slow start, maybe based on expectations this year, but certainly a big threat in this game. And the Lions have not notoriously been a great team covering covering tight ends. Alex Anzalone, I think, has given up 9 receptions on 9 targets so far, and even though I almost called him Matt Patricia, even though Dan Campbell seems to like him a lot, it doesn't really look good on the field. So a lot of interesting stuff there. The last thing, and I know this question is going to drive you crazy too, and maybe that's why I'm asking it, but like making Lamar Jackson a passer, how much concern is there that he can't pass the ball, or he turns the ball over too much as a passer? Is that a real thing, or is that just something that people say nationally that drives the people in Baltimore absolutely nuts?
Yeah, that's the national thing more than anything. But I mean, like his 2019 season, he threw 36 touchdowns and I believe 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
So it's not like he turned the ball over throwing a bunch of interceptions. Like they went 14-2 and he threw 36 touchdowns. Like it was averaging like a touchdown every like 15 throws or something like that. It was something astronomical, and it's egregious. And pointing to his highs are also equal to pointing towards his lows, where
Sure.
like he throws too many interceptions sometimes. He's pressing too hard in a KC game against a team that he's never beaten. Of all the teams that he's competed against, Kansas City has defeated him 3 times, and it was all this Mahomes talk and just the way that it's how it broke. This was a game that he was pressing really hard from the very first snap, trying to just do too much, and he even admitted it. He's like, "Yeah, I was absolutely doing too much. I was just trying to make something happen." And I think making him a thrower has not boded well for teams like the Miami Dolphins, who in week 1 they were like, we just got to make him throw, and he threw 5 touchdown passes to open up that season. Against the Cleveland Browns, they're like, we just have to make him throw. And what did he do when he returned from a cramp? He threw like a 50-yard touchdown pass and hauled that one to the house, and the Ravens ended up winning the NFL game of the year, 47-42 or something like that. Like the Ravens are not fearful of making him a passer. If you're going to utilize your speedy linebacker to play spy on him instead of cover Mark Andrews, that's a matchup that he's probably willing to accept. If you're gonna not double Sammy Watkins or put safety help over the top for Marquise Brown, and instead are utilizing more focus on Jackson, that allows a running back to break off at a different point, and strictly assigning one guy or multiple guys to try and just cover Lamar Jackson is far easier said than done, because that's going to leave gaps in your defense elsewhere. That's hindering your ability with 10 defenders instead of 11 out in the backfield are doing their traditional jobs, I would say.
So Lions defense is screwed. And with that,
I think we knew that before.
I think we did.
We came into this conversation.
Maybe. But especially screwed. But it'll be interesting to see how Derek Barnes changes things up at least a little bit. But with that, let's take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Ravens' defense, which notoriously has been their strength. Maybe not so much this year. We'll see if that's true when we continue our conversation with Kyle Barber here on First Bite. Okay, let's take a quick break here. Kyle, I really think I want to show people your epic rant Sunday night / very early Monday morning.
Yeah.
Can I get I don't know what you're doing right now, but do I have your permission to do so?
Yeah, you can.
Excellent.
It's already out in the Twitter sphere, man.
Yeah. So I think this gives people a good perspective of just how much that win over the Chiefs meant to Ravens fans and probably the Ravens themselves, right?
You can look at like John Harbaugh's clip of him like talking to them like, we went for it. And
Yep.
like that was kind of a big, clip to show that like the Ravens cared about that win,
Yeah. But I mean, like everyone would have gone for that, right? Like I joked after the game, like everyone's like, "Oh my god!" They asked Lamar if he was going to go for it, and he said, "Yeah." Like, what quarterback is going to be like, "No, I think we should punt."
Yeah.
With the game on the line, with 1 yard to go, or whatever it was.
I mean, you never know. Like, just pulling a random quarterback.
Yeah, just Jared Goff. Okay, all right. We're gonna watch this. It's 1:39, not too long, but I thought it was fantastic. And if this doesn't make you a Kyle Barber fan, I don't know what will.
What, real quick,
Yes.
is ITYSL?
I think you should leave. Where do you see that? Do you know the show?
CJ Craig said, "Is it just me? But I want to request Kyle to do. I think you should leave." Quotes.
Do you know the show?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It literally comes up
season.
Every single podcast we do.
I've seen the first season and just like I remember crying of laughter because my buddy and I it was a college weekend. I was into some fun and is winding down for the night. I'm just gonna tell stories on this break if that's cool. Strap in.
That's exactly what breaks are for.
Fantastic. And we'd had a few adult paps and we're winding down and we're both on the couch and he's like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "I've heard good things." That's all the clarity he offered. And we click yes. And the first one is the door opening.
Yep.
One. And I'm just like watching this and it took like I was a few in.
Yeah.
And to watch that, like, it drug on even further than what that originally is supposed to do. And just watching the door crank had left me in, like, doubled over, stitched in tears. Like a laugh that reminds you of happier times when your brain had more dopamine just floating about. It was so good.
Yeah, it's such a unique sketch show, and he's got a very distinct voice, and it's so good. It's so funny. Speaking of distinct voices, though, we're not getting out of it. Like we're playing this clip. You're not getting out of it with all your deflex.
Can we talk about at least really quick? This was at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I was still writing Late for Work, which is the article series for everybody that's tuning in. That's the article series that I write for BaltimoreRavens.com. I'm essentially a reporter reporting on the media, reporting on the Ravens. It's super meta and really fun. But
there's some layers to that. Holy shit! Let's
very
peel
much
back
so.
that onion.
Yeah, and so I'm like, the Ravens opened up with a Monday night game that went to overtime, so I didn't get to sleep until 6:30 a.m. and then I had to wake up at 8:40 for my edits, and then it got published at 9:40, and like my sleep schedule's chaos. And then this week, short week, and the Ravens play Sunday night football, and I was like, what is life anymore with scheduling and stuff? And like I ended up oversleeping. It was a whole thing. So that's great. But yeah, it was madness. And so RJ popped into our Twitch chat when I did the post game really quick,
Yep,
and
RJ
he's like,
Ochoa.
send me a clip of you, and we'll use the audio to play on the podcast. And I was like, the only recording thing I have available right now is just the Twitch Streamlabs recording.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna do that. And like I got the props for like my mental sake for just I was told to go full villain. And by I was told, I mean I was not told. I just went full villain.
Yep.
And so without further ado, you can play the clip and
All
let's bask in this.
Here we go.
Dear Pete Sweeney, I have here for you a lovely purple plate and a golden fork to send you. And I'm hoping you have a bib and an appetite, because we'll be eating quite a helping of humble pie this week. After all the stats, the tweets, and analysis, your beloved Kansas City Chiefs fell to the Baltimore Ravens. Patrick Mahomes' perfect September record was broken by the Ravens' defense. The Chiefs' perfect September record in the Mahomes era, broken by the Ravens. Lamar Jackson was courteous enough to spot the Chiefs 7 points at the beginning of the game, yet the Chiefs still couldn't close it out. Chiefs had an 11-point lead in the ball. What happened, Pete? The Ravens entered this game with every excuse. They didn't have their 2 starting running backs, their all-pro left tackle, or all-pro cornerback, and yet the unstoppable Chiefs couldn't win. For all that 17-0 talk, they couldn't even make it out of Baltimore 2-0. Instead, you're yucking it up down here at 1-1. And just as a reminder for all your listeners, the draft pick the Chiefs sent over for Orlando Brown Jr. became Odafe Owe. That was the man who pressured your beloved quarterback into an interception and also forced and recovered the fumble to ice the game. And by the way, he did that running past Orlando Brown Jr. too. I sure hope you enjoy your pie, Petey. I'll leave RJ to make sure you lick the plate clean. Cheers.
God damn. That is one of the most savage pieces of video I have ever seen. If you're capable of doing that at 4 a.m., what are you capable of whenever your prime time is? Dear Lord,
Mentally
man.
sound.
Like,
I think maybe the fog of 20 hours no sleep, knowing I still had 3 more to go, that might have played towards it. Maybe that was. Maybe I just should always be mentally exhausted and ill-drained. I might just be Hemingway. I get it, right? That's what we should correlate this to. Ryan's about to lose the water he just drank. That was a close one.
I don't want you to be Hemingway. I want you to keep your head.
Yeah, same.
no, that was great, and I'm so glad that the Lions haven't beaten the Ravens 6 games in a row or whatever. In fact, they've only beaten the Ravens once ever. So you're not recording that sort of video Sunday night. I hope so. Maybe this is accidentally motivating you to do so when Baltimore comes out of this game 40 to.
I hope you enjoy your pie, Jeremy.
Should I pick the Lions just so that I get one of those videos?
I mean, they don't come by request.
Yeah,
except when RJ requested it.
Except when that literally was requested.
Hey man, it was something special. It was something special.
Yeah, Hemingway is a good description, because what his most famous story is his shortest story that's 6 words: for sale, baby shoes never worn. But yours would just be 17-0 Chiefs shirt never worn.
All right.
Look at Ryan flexing his English muscle right now.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal.
I paid enough for the stupid fucking degree.
Hey, same.
Chat says trade Jamie Collins for Ray Lewis. Who says no? Probably Ray Lewis.
Yeah, probably Ray Lewis.
Maybe.
And where exactly does Jamie Collins go? Does he just go on Monday Night Countdown? Is that who?
No, I
You're
think the Ravens just get to still utilize him.
Oh, okay. They still
And
have
then
the rights to
Ray,
him.
and then Ray keeps the money, and then never plays for you again. And then there's a big scuffle on trying to reacquire the money about him just working a small office job for a little while.
Okay. I've seen
He's
this
a Hall
movie
of
before.
Famer.
I've seen this movie before.
What happens is the Lions trade for Ray Lewis. They get him in the building. The Detroit News immediately runs a story about his past, and he quits.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it would operate. Jeremy ban this dude. I'm happy I know like the basic structure of Twitch and just how to poke and prod here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do we have any list casts? I was expecting list casts.
Oh, you wanted to do a list cast? No, I don't think anyone's
I was
requested
just
a list
ready.
cast.
I was just like I've watched you guys like have to deal with doing 18 list casts all within like a single break, and you're like, we got to keep doing this, and then Chris is like, well, hold on, and he's wanting to like break down different structures of shots of film, and I'm just like, I just wanted to get back to the podcast. I haven't heard anything about the Lions.
Here's the thing. Our Twitch chat never really complains about that, about how our breaks are now way longer than the podcast itself. But the people on YouTube absolutely hate it.
Speaking of absolutely hating things, real quick,
yeah?
Big Aries, every single Twitch stream, he's on my ass about not being verified on Twitter, and it's not bothering me. It's just it needed to be addressed.
Well, I'm not verified either.
What?
Hell yeah, Kyle.
Have you tried?
No.
Shut up, Jeremy. Have you tried twice?
The reason being, you have to like take a photo of your ID. Mm-hmm. And I lost my ID 3 days before moving from Colorado to Maryland. And I'm like dreading the thought of even trying to go to like the Maryland Department of Transportation and like getting that all figured out.
Just the Maryland DMV.
Exactly. With like no former ID to go off of, like that just doesn't.
Just show them your Twitter.
Hey, I'm Kyle Barber. Not a big deal. just full blown.
Ron with a good question. How do you buy adult pop with no ID? I could see you pulling off like a college student, not looking old enough.
I thankfully am just too wide anymore to look like I'm a tiny college kid, because all I did was like during COVID was just like be super depressed and just like grind out 19 credit hours to make sure I graduated in May, and woo, we did it! At what cost? It doesn't matter, we did it!
fair
all my
enough.
Gen Zers know. All my Gen Zers, I'm not Gen Z, but like, you kids love depression and sadness. I know that. Let's go.
It's true.
We're vibing. Millennials in this mental health game. We're out here just living through society, burning to the stake. It's awesome. We're partying. So yeah, I mean, I have just enough scruff to get me by, and I have every middle-aged dad's goatee.
It's true.
You know, so it works pretty well. You know, I would grow a glorious mustache if I could, because I think anybody that could grow a mustache deserves for the community and for themselves to bear a mustache to witness for the world. You know, I think that's what really defines greatness in our society is like the ability and the courage to wear a great mustache for all to experience.
So Kyle, then what would you say about somebody who does grow said mustache but then dyes it blue. What would you say about those kind of people?
I think that has its own layer of courage to it. I think I can respect that for its sake. That's a great question. Thank you very much for asking that, Ryan.
Yeah.
But I just think like as a whole, like to grow a nice furry caterpillar and to just let everybody know that you got a push broom up here is just a respectable thing to take from the masses if you were to shave it off. I mean, I think that's just as disrespectful. I think that's an affront to God.
It's like burning the
I
American
bet
flag.
it's cursing whatever team that whatever person would do that for is coverage. I bet that's the only way to you got to make sacrifices. Just saying.
Month away, y'all. Month away. That's all I'll say. Let me catch up on alerts before we jump back into the podcast. We got Dan Goreber with the 13 months, over a year now. Dan, appreciate the support. Arnick gifted a sub to the Googie, I guess. Then we had Kaniax with the 3 months using that Twitch Prime. Appreciate that. Lions Wow with the 5 gifted subs right after that. Our good friend Nick the Greek with 200 bits, throwing some Jamie Collins stuff in the chat, which I should mention, this stream is going to be a double podcast. After we kick Kyle the hell out of here, we're gonna tackle a quick 5-10 minute pod on Jamie Collins.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, you are. Nope, I'm kicking you out.
One man, one opportunity, one podcast to steal the world. One man, one chance. Kyle Barber, pride of Detroit.
This is off the rails. Kyle, I wish you would have done your promo that you cut on the Chiefs in that voice.
I hope you like your pie, Petey. I'll leave RJ to make sure you lick the bowl clean.
Never mind. Cut it. Dump it. It's trash.
By the way, just to put a shout out to Baltimore Beatdown in our chat. If you like what Kyle's bringing, and I don't know if he always brings this kind of energy or if he's playing it up here. I think he's playing it up a little bit because he knows that people are actually watching now.
This is who I would be all the time if I could. Like, this is like Kyle Barber, the person. Like, ask my partner. Like, Allie would admit, she's like, yeah, like I've had, like, if she hadn't reeled me in 3 years ago and like showed me love and affection and like how to be a better person, like this would just be me all the time. But like now I reel it in because like I have to watch my character for like I'm a Baltimore Raven, I suppose, and they're like, hey, make sure to like be a respectable person and like you now like represent us, and I'm like, okay, I will, like I promise. And like the same with SB Nation, but like no, this is me, like this is me having fun. Like I love
when you're down
like,
here with the normies, you're
yes.
just like, okay, screw it, I'll be unprofessional with these idiots.
I'm not being unprofessional. I'm having a blast. I'm talking about mental health. I'm trying to talk about advocacy for it.
You know, when you're doing this, you're doing the kids. The kids are liking it when you do this.
Kids are liking this.
Mental health.
No, you guys. The kids don't like any of this stuff.
Oh yeah, they do. Me and Gen Z are toyed.
Toyed. He said toyed.
Yes, but let me do myself for my stream. Hi, my name is Kyle Barber. I'm the managing editor of Baltimore Beatdown and also a writer for BaltimoreRavens.com. I write their Late for Work series 1 to 2 times a week. On my Twitch streams, I do post-game reports covering the Baltimore Ravens, and then also throughout the week when I find time, I do play video games on Twitch. I'm a half-decent Rocket League player. I am in Champ 2. And then I used to hold the world record for speedrunning For Honor, the campaign. My world record was taken from me 2 days ago by the former guy that I took the world record from. His name is Ghost Death. He plays he's a speed runner in France, and he's super awesome, really great guy. And unfortunately, he re-stole the world record speed run. So I might just have to hop on and start grinding speed run stuff again, which is really fun because I can actually talk and communicate with my chat whilst speed running, because it's not like the most like it's not like Mario Brothers speed running where you have to like be frame perfect on 1/60th of a frame to clip through a wall, you know, like there's that. So yeah, I have super fun time. I'll enjoy playing video games. I'm pretty decent at them, and at the same time, I just love talking football and entertaining. Like I truly do enjoy entertaining. That's why I've been partying it up here with old Jeremy and Ryan. We have a fun time. Jeremy's laughing just at me selling this and acting like a human being, or
No,
are you laughing at all the comments?
I'm
What's
laughing
going
at
on?
Joshua Mercer in our chat. It says, "Wait, this is the Baltimore beatdown guy that's always in the chat. LOL. It all makes sense now."
That's me, folks.
That's him.
One man,
Nope,
one
nope,
Baltimore
nope, nope,
beatdown.
I think we have to charge Kyle for being on the podcast now.
Is that how this works?
Oh no, I'm absolutely getting all the subs, right?
Send an invoice to Gianna.
It is kind of fun though. Sometimes when I jump over to your stream when you're recording, including Sunday night, I see like 3 or 4 people from our chat over there just like hanging out.
Yeah, like CJ Craig
Yep.
is like frequently in there, and then there's some other ones. I don't have everybody memorized. I should, because I only have like 3 viewers at any given time. But like, yeah, definitely give it a check out. You know, it's really fun. Rocket League and Pablo voices. This is my guy. Let's go, Ron.
One run of the wireless zone.
Let's go. All right.
All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me give a little.
Yeah, I'll let you pick how we're running your show.
Yeah.
Should we kick
Be
him?
careful.
Should we just do the second segment, me and Ryan chat?
I mean, we are talking about the Lions offense, so I mean, there's not much to talk about.
What is this guy's Twitch handle? It should be above his name right now, but if you can't read it, I know it's kind of small text. Maybe especially if you're watching on the phone, it's Kyle P. Barber. Which it's actually incorrectly labeled on SB Nation. I don't know if you knew that. You're also muted, so I can't hear whatever you're saying right now.
Ooh.
I muted myself out of responsibility for you opening the next segment. You know what?
Did you want to respond to that before we get into it?
I'm done. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, at Kyle P. Barber. I said something. I don't know what your old Twitter handle was, but it
It was at BB_ Kyle P. Barber, because I was just Baltimore Beatdown, and I was like, I'm gonna be a Baltimore Beatdown forever. This makes sense for my Twitter. And then I got hired by the Baltimore Ravens, and I was like,
I'm my own man.
fair enough.
and it worked out well.
Since we're being silly, no, I shouldn't bring it up. Never mind.
Look at all these beans
no.
I've spilled
It's
out.
actually
The toothpaste is out of
it's
the
not
toothpaste
silly.
bottle.
It would bring
You
the
don't
mood
get to
down.
scoop it back into the toothpaste bottle.
No.
What you say? No,
It has to-
Jeremy, for the love of God.
I'm sure this has come up with you before, but the title of your website. There was a certain era of Baltimore Ravens football. Where it
Yeah,
was
we're
highly-
done. Yeah,
Okay.
we don't have to bring this
Yep,
up.
Okay, see, that's what I thought. Yep. I immediately changed course, and it was the right idea. But yeah, let's just say there was a time in which you had a very unfortunate website name when you were covering the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
That's all.
I wasn't managing editor during that time. Woo!
All right, I got to make a big space of empty noise so that Chris knows when the hell we actually started the second segment. And we are back here on First Bite with our good friend Kyle Barber of Baltimore Beatdown of BaltimoreRavens.com. Sort of kind of BaltimoreRavens.com, right?
Yeah, that's essentially it.
I was saying sort of, kind of our friend.
Oh, sort of kind of our friend. We talked all about the Baltimore Ravens offense. Let's talk about their defense, which has, been one of the most stable. Defenses tend to be unstable from year to year. The Baltimore Ravens certainly buck that trend, but off to kind of a slow start. 29th in points allowed through 2 games, 23rd in DVOA. My question to you, Kyle, is there any real concern there, or is it just, hey, we played the Chiefs, hey, we played a Raiders team that's probably underrated, we'll be fine?
I think that really is my thought process, and the thought process of many is like, they're without Derek Wolfe, they're without Marcus Peters. Like, they lost Marcus Peters and then like just had to get it together in a week and just figure things out and go from there. And then they lose Chris Westry right after week 1, and that's the guy that they were like, they traded Sean Wade, a rookie 5th round pick they just drafted 2.5 months ago, to the Patriots because they saw Chris Westry and they went, that guy's better like as an undrafted guy than we even got Sean Wade. Let's keep him, and that's why they sent Sean Wade off to New England. And I think and now they're losing him, and overall it's also just, it's Patrick Mahomes carving you up regardless. And the Ravens did an excellent job of bottling up like specific players, like Tyreek Hill had 3 catches for 14 yards, but they have so many weapons, as we know, that they could make a 3rd wide receiver and a 4th wide receiver look like number 1s and number 2s, because that's the offense of Andy Reid with the perfect quarterback build for him in Patrick Mahomes.
All right, but this team isn't perfect, Kyle. Where's the weakness?
Everything
Where's the
in life is perfect.
you got to give me something here. If I don't push you on this, I'm going to get people on YouTube saying, this guy thinks that the team's perfect. They're not bad. There's got to be a weakness here on defense, right? Maybe not on offense because they're a running behemoth, but
they're gonna think you're a company man with the BaltimoreRavens.com.
I'm definitely not saying that this team is perfect. Like I said, cornerback is definitely an area of weakness. Anthony Averett played very well though in the role. Like, the Ravens secondary is arguably the best secondary in the NFL in terms of depth. Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters were both All-Pros 2 years ago. They're very talented. Anthony Averett is a former Alabama 2-time champ who played opposite of Marlon Humphrey in college, and he was good enough to be a starting corner elsewhere. Not like a starting 1 All-Pro. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he was a starter worthy of playing elsewhere, and he was part of the reason he was assigned to cover Tyreek Hill on a lot of plays, so like that shows them. Chris Westry was on this team. I think safety though, if you want me to transition from talking up the Ravens to pointing out deficiencies and flaws, is I think safety could be very well one. The Ravens have 2 safeties that are traditional and good at just about everything, but like not talented and like supreme in any regard. It's Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott. I don't know if Deshaun Elliott's even going to be playing. He's coming off of a concussion that we spoke about in the previous segment, and that's going to be something to focus up on because who will be starting behind him? Brandon Stevens, who is a rookie, who is a former running back turned cornerback turned safety in college to his NFL days. It's been pretty interesting, his career.
That's called the reverse Iguabuke, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so going off of that, linebacker is something to be concerned about. The Ravens struggle with tight ends. The only time they didn't struggle with tight ends was when they had you guys' faces upon saying that is perfect. Oh, you got our attention instead of you rambling. Look at that. But Patrick Queen has struggled in coverage. Both Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. Is it Kels or Kelsey? What do they pronounce it?
It's apparently Kels, but
it's Kels. Okay.
Yeah, everyone says Kelsey, but
everybody's still saying Kelsey. Yeah, okay. I remember him saying like, yeah, it's actually pronounced this way. Okay, so I just want to give persons, the correct pronunciation on their names. So Travis Kelce, both went over 100 yards and had a touchdown. It's a great thing that they're not playing any sort of talented tight end. Oh wait,
record scratch.
Who are they playing? Exactly. So they've been struggling to cover that. The only time they didn't worry about tight ends was when they had Earl Thomas on the team, but we all know how that ended really poorly. The pass rush was a lot more concerning before we saw that Odafe Owe, the draft pick that they had at number 31, turned out to be a really big stud all of a sudden. He had a sack in his first game against the Raiders, and then he became the AFC Defensive Player of the Week this week after forcing a fumble and recovering the fumble on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and also being the guy that tackled Mahomes into throwing his worst interception to Tavon Young. Like, that was something that I like a week ago, I'd be talking about that pass rush still. Like, Odafe had a sack, but I don't know how good he is. Like, no, he looks real deal, and I'm really impressed with this kid. So, but they still have worries on the interior offensive line. Like, Calais Campbell isn't just throwing around bodies and making incredible plays every time. Like, we would hope he still had kind of the gas for. He looks good, but he's nowhere near former Calais Campbell's self.
Well, so that's the question that I wanted to ask you, Kyle, is, according to what we have in front of us here, the Ravens are still number 1 in blitz percentage, and they're number 4 in pressure percentage. But their pass rush win rate is 24th, according to ESPN, and their pressure grade is 23rd. Is that an area of their defense where they're lacking a little bit in terms of being able to get home to the quarterback and force that quarterback to make some ill-timed decisions?
Yes, I will completely agree with that. In week 1, they couldn't get to Derek Carr. It was really apathetic in terms of their pass rush. For all the glory that I've been given to Odafe just a little bit ago, like, he wasn't consistently doing that. He's having these burst plays where, like, all of a sudden he's looking good for a play, and then he'll get pancake blocked the next, and he'll get sat down. So he needs to be a more consistent player. But that's okay if he's a rookie and he's still doing those plays. That's okay for him. Like, it's all about expectations, right? And for a rookie in his first game, like, getting a sack is good. That's just kind of how it is. But even if you lose a bunch of other snaps, Justin Houston's looking all right. But yeah, the Ravens haven't consistently gotten pressure on quarterbacks. It's also really tough because their first game, like, that's, you could chalk that up to like game 1 jitters, or just like not expecting to like go up against a Raiders team that came out the gates firing on all cylinders a lot better than they had expected. And then week 2 is Patrick Mahomes, who avoids pressure and makes magic out of any single throw possible. And but overall, yes, like, Ravens are struggling with pressure. We hope to see that change moving forward.
It's an intriguing matchup, right? Because Lions' offensive line has held up pretty well. Their 2 games in pass protection, I think, much better than a lot of people expected once Taylor Decker went out. Penei Sewell's obviously been the star of that, but I think this Ravens defense provides a unique challenge in that they're very attacking. You just mentioned, Ryan, the number 1 blitz rate. Lions really haven't dealt with that. The Packers didn't send a lot of blitz until the second half, and it kind of worked in the second half last week. And then the 49ers are the kind of team that is just like, we think our 4 are going to beat you. So we're not going to send pressure. This is going to be a much different challenge. And given the Lions, youth on that offensive line, you have to wonder if the Ravens' complicated looks might give them a little trouble. But, so far so good with that offensive line. Speaking of the offensive line, they've also been great at run blocking. And the Lions are 4th in DVOA in run offense right now, even though the yardage numbers aren't up there because they've had to abandon the run in 2 straight games. How have the Ravens looked at defending the run? How's that interior defensive line? And as someone in our chat asks, whose lunch is Frank Ragnow going to eat this week?
The Ravens have been pretty stout against the run. I don't think that's an area that they've had to be too concerned about, because teams are opting to pass to their star tight ends on them instead. We didn't see any crazy run plays from the Raiders nor the Chiefs. The Chiefs' run play turned into Odafe forcing a game-winning fumble and recovering it, so that hasn't been a big concern. With that in mind, I think the Ravens are a really good run-stuffing team. They have Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams, both notable against the run. And the Ravens have a point of emphasis when it comes to stopping the run. Malik Harrison is quite a cliche run-stopping linebacker. He's this bigger, heavier, downhill running back that you can't ask to put in coverage against Travis Kelce, which the Ravens strugglingly did a few times against the Chiefs. But when there's a run coming at him, he's very quick with that cliche nose to the football kind of running game. Frank Ragnow, I think, is center, right? Center for the Lions?
Yep.
Okay. Brandon Williams is who I would expect to be going up against him, and I think that's a formidable matchup for both sides. But Williams did not practice. He had a neck injury that he sustained against the Chiefs that kept him out about the last quarter and a half, and he did not practice today from what I can recollect. But I think the Ravens are pretty adept against running, especially with Justin Banabike, Patrick Queen. Those guys are all really good. The Ravens are good against the run. It's just stopping the pass and tight end specifically that they really struggle with.
All right, we're going to close out our podcast here with the thing that we always close it out with. It's our predictions. And the way we do our predictions, Kyle, if you haven't checked it out before, is we do the one thing we think we know. It doesn't have to be a score prediction, doesn't have to be a winner prediction, just one thing you're sure of that's going to happen on Sunday. So we always start this with Ryan so that you can kind of get a basis of how it works. Ryan, what's the one thing you think you know about Lions-Ravens?
All right, so this is going to be a little quick history lesson. So off air, I was talking to Jeremy about who has the most team rushing yards in a game. And you have to go all the way back to 1950, and it's the Giants against the Baltimore Colts. But little did I know that fourth in that stat is the 2020 Baltimore Ravens, who put up 404 rushing yards against the Cincinnati Bengals on January 3rd of 2021. That's insane. A modern offense running for that many yards is just mind-blowing.
I don't like where this is going, Ryan.
I think that the Ravens are going to rush for at least 300 yards on Sunday.
Oof.
I don't think that's crazy to say.
The disrespect to Derek Barnes. I will have none of it.
He is one man.
Yes, because one rookie
Yep.
in their first start is not a complete trial by fire in covering Lamar Jackson. Yes, Jeremy.
All right, Kyle. What's the one thing you think you know about Ravens-Lions?
The one thing that I know about Ravens-Lions, I think Justin Tucker's going to hit some field goals. I think Tucker hits 3 field goals. I can be confident that he goes 3 for 3. He tends to perform pretty well against the in Ford Field, He looks good. I almost had my interview got rescheduled with him today, by the way. I was going to ask him about it in the lead up to this. Oh, I'm so mad I didn't get to interview him this week.
If you guys aren't catching on here, Kyle is doing what we know as a troll job because he, first of all, he's a huge kicker fan. He does big research on kickers, and why wouldn't you if Justin Tucker is your team's kicker? But he's also referring to a Monday Night Football game that we're not going to talk about anymore.
I do an annual NFL kicking crown video in which I talk about the top 10 kickers in NFL history and show why, because I think just all-time kicking percentage isn't good enough to talk about, if Jeremy kicks 10 kicks from the 10-yard line and I kick 10 kicks from the 50 and Jeremy only kicks 8 of 10 and I kick 7 for 10, I'm probably a better kicker going 70% when he goes 80% from the 10. That's something. And Justin Tucker is just kicking from at least 2 yards back from everybody else that's within his range. But Jeremy, let me swing it back to you. What is the one thing you know?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that you have openly admitted that the Lions are somehow going to force the Ravens into 3 field goals, which I think is notable.
That'd be incredible.
It's gonna be like a 2-minute thing where the Ravens are stalled drive. Justin, it's a 49. What do you think? Yeah, let's do this. And then the Ravens get the ball back after a turnover and it's almost the end of the half again. It's all within a short span and the Ravens just keep booting field goals.
Jeremy, what's the one thing you think you know?
TJ Hockenson, 450 yards.
Yeah.
No, I will stick with Hockenson. I'll say 150 yards. Set a career high career high day for TJ Hockenson on Sunday.
I like that.
Spicy.
There we go. And that is our predictions. That is our first bite preview with Kyle Barber. Kyle, give the people your information, where they can find you, What sort of stuff, maybe if people want to go over to Baltimore Beatdown this week, what sort of preview stuff that they might be interested in?
Yeah, so definitely go check out BaltimoreBeatdown.com. I have a wonderful staff that I truly do enjoy having write and create content for us. Um, we have some film breakdowns that we do with Spencer. We have some smart analytical stuff from Vasily Literkos, my co-managing editor or deputy editor, whatever you want to call him. And so our podcast is really fun too. If you want to listen to a little bit more shenanigans, it's not featuring me. It's Jake, Luke, and Spencer Schultz, and they have a great time. We're going to be having a player interview next week, which is always exciting to land one of the Baltimore Ravens players. And my work is really centering right now about getting this kicking article up, because I typically do it in the preseason, but I've just been slammed with absolutely everything else. Jake Luke, Louque for Nick the Greek 420, by the way. So there's that. Saw the comment, wanted to correct it. But Baltimore Beatdown's a great time, and it doesn't quite have the community of Pride of Detroit, but we got some good eggs in there.
I like it. We love you over here. Thank you for joining us, Kyle. Thank you for listening, everybody at home. We will be back with our game recap on Sunday night here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit. Probably be around 7 o'clock so that we can get you out in time for Sunday Night Football. But until next time, I'm Jeremy. That's Ryan. That's Kyle. We'll talk to you later. It's chaos. Be kind.